People ask me what advice I would offer to a budding South Asian producer. And I feel like most valuable piece of advice would be Hi, my name is Aisha. I'm a DJ and producer based here in Ridgewood, Queens, New York. Welcome to my house. And my pack, Tabla Freaked, is on Splice. So I actually spent a lot of my childhood growing up between different parts of India and different parts of the States. So I actually spent a lot of my formative years between the age of 7 and the age of 12, and then between the age of 14 and the age of 18 in different parts of India. I ended up going to, a international high school for a little bit, but a lot of my primary schooling was done just at Indian system schools, and song and dance was very much a part of a lot of school life. I feel like singing and dancing was just such a ordinary, common part of my education, being at the schools that I went to school. And I even went to a Montessori school where there was a lot of emphasis on different ways of learning and movement being a part of the curriculum. So I was, growing up constantly exposed to lots of different kinds of South Asian music, a lot of different kinds of, specifically Indian music with this very cyclical rhythm. And I think in some way that shaped my love of percussion and drums as a producer. Initially, when I started producing music, I had a very clear intention of wanting to explore the interaction of Eastern and Western sounds. But I think now at this point, my major approach to making music is what sounds and rhythms hit the body the hardest. And often South Asian sounds fit into answering that question for me. People ask me what advice I would offer to a budding South Asian producer. And I feel like most valuable piece of advice would be to let your curiosity lead what you make, because that has sustainability and longevity. I've been a DJ for over a decade, and I started producing in roughly 2015. And after stepping into the Ableton workflow, I haven't left since. And I have been able to also find the workflow that has worked for me and really find my sound and my voice. So I use South Asian sounds in most of my production, especially all the percussion. But a lot of the times they've been designed in such subtle and nuanced ways that you might not even know. And I think that mystery is kind of fun. I've always gravitated towards tabla and hand drum sounds in my music since I started producing, because I've always been really attracted to the texture of the sound of a hand hitting the skin of a drum. There's something that just feels really visceral to me. So with that context in mind, when I heard that Splice was launching a tabla pack and I had the opportunity to flip it, that was my obvious choice. I was really excited to see that Splice was offering a product that, was a series of high quality session recordings for the tabla. That just made me feel seen in a way. I think it's about time that the Splice Sounds library offers high-quality recordings of South Asian music like it does other styles of music. The vibe of this pack is very playful. That's why it's called Tabla Freaked. I feel like freakiness evokes a mischief and playfulness that I feel really captures the approach that I took to this pack. I wanted to see how I could take traditional tabla sounds and reorient them in the format of loops that were appealing to producers of club music across the spectrum. My main approach to designing the sounds in this pack is what I now call re-grooving, which is basically taking the original grooves in these tabla recordings and chopping them up and recombining them and turning them into different grooves. A frustrating thing for me when I use a sound that's overly designed or overly processed is that I kind of feel like I'm stuck with it. So when I approached this pack and these sounds, I wanted to really focus on rhythm and regrooving and keep the processing to as a minimal final touch on the sounds. I don't feel pressure to represent my culture in music, but I do feel a curiosity around certain aspects of my culture and how they can translate into the format of electronic music. The industry can project a pressure that can almost feel like an added burden to be an ambassador for your culture in something like dance music. And I just feel like if that's something that you deeply intrinsically want to do, that's great. But if you feel like making music based on other things that are more authentic and true to what you're curious about, do that. Authenticity is just a universal truth in a sense. It will tide most of us through the difficult moments of our careers if we stay honest with ourselves and our audiences. So check out my pack, Tabla Freaked on Splice.